Welcome back to the Paladins Pro Circuit. We just wrapped up Europe, and what an exciting set that was. We are now moving into Brazil. Still, obviously, Finch and Fawn here. And this match we're going to be looking at will be Ignite versus In Control. Fawn, what are you expecting from this matchup?
It's very interesting because Brazil has been one of those newer regions that we've seen this year, and a lot of them feel like a lot of the time it feels like almost a proving ground for Brazilian players to be like, "Yo, we're here, we're alive, we definitely can fight, and we can play Paladins like everybody else." And it's a lot of and a lot of it comes especially on the side of Ignite, and especially on the side of Ignite and In Control. Some of these people it is that we've heard of, like Ice Monkey, like Amadeus, King Kaiser. A lot of these guys are familiar to the Paladins minor league and previous years it is that we've seen them. Same thing can be said for same thing can be said for Tuga as well. And a lot of it is really interesting to see these guys come together not only as a team, but to see the other team, which is maybe some not so familiar faces on the side of Ignite. And I'm interested to see Ignite sort of try and prove themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, let's take a look at this very first map. I believe we're gonna be taking a look at Ice Mines for this or not Ice Mines, excuse me. It's gonna be Bright Marsh. Pretty different from Ice Mines, but certainly still a good look. It'll be Bright Marsh to start as we move into those very first picks and bans here, Fawn. And some of what we've been noticing on Bright Marsh is that sometimes you see them valuing some of these high mobility assassins or even things like Ruckus, or rather flankers. You can get up there to the top, hold that high ground, and try to put out some damage. What are you expecting to see valued here as already the Shaolin being banned?
Yeah, Shaolin is definitely a target ban on the side of Ignite. It's not something that we
Mhm.
typically see, but they've got a few Shaolin players on their side of In Control, and it's definitely a more dangerous pick in their hands. So I can understand why they would get rid of the Shaolin. The Jinos is going to be the response as well. We've already talked about it earlier. Why he's such a either highly contested pick or ban is because of the fact that both him and Corvus sort of run things right now in terms of healers. Even though we saw a little bit of Grover and Maldamba earlier today, they're still the two strongest right
Yeah, I think Grover looked pretty strong when they had to sort of
now.
resort back to another one of those healers, maybe Damba with a little bit to be desired, at least in the games that we saw. But certainly, I got to agree with you in terms of Genos and Corvus and that pocket heal ability that they've got. So next up, it'll be the Mave band from Ignite. So it looks like they're trying to take care of some of those damage dealers, one DPS and one flanker, as opposed to In Control, who are banning out two supports, both of those popular pocket healers.
Yeah, it seems like seems like Ignite are actually going to lock in the Androxus first. A band that we saw in the very last game of last set was actually going to make his way into this game as well, which is, I mean, pretty huge. I mean, Androxus is a pretty common flank nowadays. That hit scan presence is really important. Same thing for Vivian. As soon as I mentioned the hit scan, I mean, you can't forget her and Anara. That's already pretty huge. Just sustainability and plenty of damage on the side of In Control.
Yeah, pretty scary. I got to think if you're Ignite now, right? Because the Onara
Mhm.
provides all this extra and tanky presence for them hanging out inside that midpoint. The Vivian is all this extra damage. But if you're on Ignite, you've got this Androxus for that mobility moving around. And now this Leon.
Hmm.
We don't see a whole lot of Leon nowadays, but pretty sure Ignite are comfortable with the pick.
No Leon, and see even less Barrick, honestly. I mean, he's not really at the top of the charts right now in terms of being able to front line. We have seen it work out maybe once, maybe twice, but most of the time they would try and opt to go for a different pick. I mean, Terminus is let go this time around. Ignite decide not to draft that. They want to go with the Barrick instead. They feel more comfortable with that. But In Control, I mean, this sustainability is just too much with this Grover. I mean, the Whirlwind being a huge factor. I mean, even Rom is open. I mean, they could even lock him in
That's
on
right.
either sides. So I'm not too sure how I'm feeling about the Barrick. It seems like it could fall a little bit flat. Let's say it has some sustainability, like in the form of Ying, but it's still a little bit questionable.
Yeah, not so. I mean, I suppose it is a little surprising, but entirely different picks valued as we move from region to region. I mean, remember, it was the Atlas that we saw a ton of, and other supports
Right.
had to end up getting picked up here. But instead, we're seeing when you come down towards the Barrack, and it is just going to be the solo tank here for Ignite as well. They got the Ying, Zin, Leon, and Androxus. Really triple DPS for them between the Androxus, the Leon, and the Zin, with that Ying there to provide some extra support there for them. So this is pretty aggressive what Ignite have at their disposal here right now.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same as before with a more of a death ball-y sort of composition. You have Buck as well, which I'm pretty sure he's going to end up taking bulk up this go around. He wants to be able to have the extra DR, that sustainability. At least that makes the most sense to me, considering the fact that you got to be able to live a lot of those dives. They have a very aggressive comp on the side of Ignite, and you have to be able to live long enough for this Grover to make sure that he gets value out of what that he is doing. You have to draw eyes towards you because they managed to get into the back line, they're gonna run them right over.
Still in control with plenty of damage in their own right. Still also running essentially the solo tank, but I think a little bit more on that beefy side, obviously with the Grover providing the healing and a much wider AoE, and then the Buck with plenty of self-sustain in his own right and even some of his own tankiness as well. So I don't know. I mean, I think In Control might have kind of the right draft here if they can deal with all that damage coming across from the other side.
Yeah, Booby Trap being taken as well on the side of Vivian. I mean, it's more of a common pick nowadays. Some changes to Opportunity and Chaos means that they weren't as value to take those, but Booby Trap playing the same role as before, and plus you still can't ignore Vivian damage, whether she has extra damage or not. There's still a lot to deal with. Zen going with the Guillotine as well. That means that he definitely wants to burn through a lot of those sustainable targets on the side of In Control. He wants to make sure that he makes their life a living hell if they can get into the back line to try and bypass this Buck.
We'll be riding along with Ignite as we move in to the very first game of set number 2. It's our first set here in Brazil, and Bright Marsh will be our very first map. Penny will be the pilot here for this barrack up against DNR on the other side, but there's already been a first blood. Kubi's falls early on this Leon. I was wondering what kind of value we would see from it, but very early on, it has struggled. As In Control, I imagine I'll be making this pun a lot, seem to be in control of the midpoint.
Yeah, I mean, they are, I was about to say In Control again. I mean, I feel like we've said it enough. Like
We truly have already said enough.
Right, yeah. And I mean, with that being the case, I mean, you clearly see they're controlling a lot of these different side angles. Apartments is already being locked down. I mean, Buck is over there. They couldn't really make it past him. Leon tried to see if he could get a kill, but Grover just healed him all the way back up. I mean, it made it that much harder for them to try and break into the backline, like I was saying before. They have to make it past this Buck. They have to make it past a lot of these very sustainable targets that can sort of keep themselves alive, and that makes it that much harder for them to try and break the formation that In Control has.
Yet again, In Control just keep pushing right on forward. Yanara functioning as the centerpiece for the defense, but in terms of the offense, I feel like the Buck, King Kaiser, is the leader of that trend with plenty of help coming out from Tugo, I believe, was piloting the Vivian. King Kaiser gets one more kill to be able to take care of the Zen on the opposite side, and this keeps right on rolling, and I don't know if we're seeing enough value from this Barrack Fawn. I feel like it keeps folding like some origami paper as In Control continue to run right over it.
Yeah, I mean, you got a minute and 45 left, and the clock is already, I mean, and not only is the clock already, like, not that low in terms of it being, like, down to the wire, but you already have the cart this far with In Control pushing this right on in, and that's why I was mentioning it before. The barrier is just not really strong enough to sustain a lot of this damage that they're able to bring out on the side of In Control. Vivian's just shredding that in its entirety, and it took a fully charged, all four charges used of the Cursed Arm to make sure they could burn down the Vivian.
They were able to get the kill, and despite how much of a commitment it took to get it, it was much needed, as that does slow down this aggression from In Control. Leon trying to get aggressive, moving into the Buck, but doesn't get the better of it. That is the value, though, of this Guillotine, and perhaps why we're seeing it picked up a bit more as that talent for the Zen, as it shuts down Ice Monkey on that Inara Tuga. And gets that second kill.
Yeah, and I think that's actually what's really, really good about In Control overall. It's just the fact that they're able to sustain themselves so well and make sure that they can't really make it past any sort of, they can't gain any ground on the side of Ignite. They're not being able to be healed that much. The Illusory Rift, sure, that's going to be able to heal a lot of people up and make sure they have that sustainability for those fights where they need to force it. But it's not paying off in dividends for them because Grover is just as aggressive as Yin can be.
We've given a lot of credit over to In Control for their offense, but the defensive Ignite looking much better. Obviously, as soon as I say that, the 3-for-0 comes through for In Control, but this will have to get done in overtime, if at all. The Whirlwind's still available, as well as the Sentinel there for In Control, so if we are going to see those ultimates used, In Control doesn't have a whole lot more time to get it done. Penny has made their way out, holding down this payload, using that shield quite well to try and hold behind this tree, recognizes how low the Anar is on the other side, but the whirlwind comes through, keeps them standing, but Deja Vu takes to the sky and is able to take them down with that accursed arm. They get 2 kills back to back, even with King Kaiser's coming through, and Ignite are able to hold on for the successful defense.
Yeah, pops the accursed arm immediately as soon as he notices that the whirlwind gets utilized, which means that he wants to put a stop to that sustainability right there. That was very, very well played by Deja Vu. I mean, it just ended up paying off in dividends for him to be able to have that presence of mind, to be able to utilize that ultimate as soon as he needed to, because he's going to be able to get that right back. He's playing on the playing side, if anything. I mean, he's going to be able to plug damage into enough people to where he can get that ultimate back just as quickly as he lost it. But there are a lot of good credits, I mean, on the side of on King Kaiser's side. I mean, he has 749. He's going to be able to bring out a lot on the side, a lot for his team on InControl. With Ignite building a lot of the resiliences, the builds seem pretty standard for the most part.
They do as we move in to our second mid fight. Remember, InControl basically won this one free last time around, so let's see if Ignite can put up a bit of a tougher fight this second go around. King Kaiser has found a little bit of a pathing off to the side. Deja Vu does enough work on the Androxus from up top to force him back. InControl initially had that control of that mid space, but had to give it up a little bit to that Barrack when he moved in. But King Kaiser continues his battle with the Androxus. No big winners yet, but Penny has dropped. I was asking about the Barrack, and he's already gone down. Deja Vu, though, gets the return kill on that Androxus, takes down King Kaiser. Their battle finally came to a conclusion, but the spite coming out not enough to take care of Toga. Gets a little bit of help, and Amadeus gets the kill, make it a double as he shuts down Deja Vu on the backside. But that's both of those flankers removed, and InControl again win the mid-fight.
Grover came around just in the nick of time to make sure that that spike didn't get the last hit necessary to kill off that Vivian peel for him. And just like you said, both flankers went down in an instant. Too much control on the side of InControl. How many more times can we say that? Only time will be able to tell, as they are still pushing this cart forward. They're just able to get the pick, but I mean, at the same time, they just have so much sustainability. I've said that so many times, but it's true. They're able to outlive a lot of these ultimates and a lot of these fights, and it even forces out the illusory rift on the side of Ignite.
Looks like Kubies will be able to move up and take care of this kill on Ice Monkey. So last time we saw Ignite show us a decent defense fawn. This time it's happening much sooner. Remember, around the 1 minute 30-second left mark, that payload was basically just outside of being converted, and Ignite had to defend from there in a much better spot this time, as they've essentially just forced a second mid-fight out in this game with this aggressive zone. But they're going to need to find some kind of way, as you were highlighting, to get through this sustain, through the tankiness, through the healing, as Kaiser and Amadeus are able to find 2 kills, make it a double for Amadeus, perhaps even a triple in the cards as Amadeus finds Deja Vu, and suddenly InControl are pushing the payload right on down Main Street.
Yeah, Ignite stopped them in the exact same spot that they stopped them last round, and then lost in the exact same spot that they lost in last round, because, like you said, their defense is good. They're able to at least put up these fights, but they aren't able to hold on as long because the healing isn't as strong as Grover is. He's not being able to Ying can't sustain him as frequently as Grover can with all this healing.
That was a great accursed arm, though, from Deja Vu. Shuts down King Kaiser on the buck, but Amadeus gets the return kill, and Penny is low. Set up the initial defense a little bit off to the side as Deja Vu continues to come up clutch for Ignite Gaming. Kind of all of their offense is coming for this man, but Amadeus puts a stop to it. The Leon gets the kill into Amadeus. The buck a little bit too late with that backup, but they're still able to push forward a little bit more. Got to get their Inara back in before they can make any kind of actual push happen, but InControl still have another shot.
Yeah, Vivian hasn't really given up any of the positioning that she has been in. At first, I guess because I thought that Andro was going to go down with Cassie living just barely, but Ice Monkey getting taken down, that's pretty huge.
It is. That means now there can be pressure on someone from InControl to step up and at least get this touch, force us into overtime if they want to give a chance for this Anar to make it back in the fight. King Kaiser was able to get that first kill to Deja Vu, and he's been a lot of the damage, so it's huge to get rid of him. They are able to take care of the Zen as well, so if the Inara is able to make it back, then this cap suddenly becomes very doable. Penny falls to double for Amadeus, and InControl get the conversion fawn. How does that happen? They killed the only tank seconds ago.
Nah, you forgot about the other tank, Buck, being able to make sure that when he made it to cart, he was able to sustain himself for just long enough. Even though there were so many people that were looking at him, Ying was one of the only remaining members that really was on cart. She used those illusions to blink back up onto high ground and pretty much make sure that she can heal the people that were next to her. Of course, the illusions healing out whoever might make it back onto point. But in that very brief moment of time, Buck was the one that stepped onto point and made sure that he could live for a little bit longer, stall just long enough for Ice Monkey to make it back to cart, with Vivian not forfeiting any of the space that she had from the very beginning of that fight. I mean, she was in that apartment, in that
Yeah.
little building for so long and plugging in damage to so many different people that supported Buck in being able to make sure that he could contest that.
Well, Ignite have known this grim reality all game, but it has suddenly become very clear they're gonna have to find a way to win a mid fight right here, right now, or else this first map is over. The Whirlwind's coming out very early, and Max Souza must have had that one forced out. But hey, I cannot question the wisdom, as Penny is the one that ends up being traded out. A long-range axe takes care of Ornskin as well, and suddenly this mid control for InControl can extend even further. Look how far back they're having to play at this point, as they can't even afford to step up without the rest of their team. They're trying to send the Andro up. Some good heal coming from the Ying, but Inara has the walls blocked off. Penny has to come around through the side to try and force their way in, and that does push back InControl for a moment. Even going to drop the Dome Shield. They're dropping the Accursed Arm as well. All of the ultimates coming out for Ignite as they have to desperately hold on.
Yeah, they're just barely trying to make sure that they can hold on to this point as long as they can. They even utilize the Dome Shield, but what did they do on the side of InControl? They just ran. They didn't want to fight.
Right.
They just made sure that they hit. They heard the Accursed Arm, they heard the Dome Shield, and they lose the Illusory Rift. They use the Illusory Rift as well. And because of that, InControl just waited for the ultimates to run out. That's why they ended up winning the fight.
And InControl end up taking care of Bright Marsh very cleanly there, Fawn. And just like you said, that was great patience from them to just back up, let the Dome Shield play out, let the Accursed Arm play out, then re-peek. A great pick, I think, came through at that last minute from the Cassie there as well to sort of open up for that fight to get a little bit cleaner in their favor. But a lot is going to need to change, I feel like, if you're Ignite, because they didn't look competitive really in any of the mid fights. Their defenses were a lot better, but not those mid fights.
Yeah, I really think that when you have to worry about controlling the apartments and controlling, if anything, by that ocean area next to the point, at least to the left of the point, if you're looking from the side if you're looking from the side of in control, it will be to your left. That those two areas alone are the reason why I feel like they were able to win as effectively as they were. It's a lot of choke point areas, meaning Grover can pretty much pop off in the healing department. He's healing people through walls. Everyone can group up in that area because they don't have a choice but to group up in those areas. And so, with that being the case, they were able to live a lot longer, fight for a lot longer. And in that time that they were hiding towards the tail end of that fight with the accursed arm, Grover was healing them up passively over time, even
Yeah.
with that. So they were already ready to make sure they could fight and make sure they could have the retake potential on the side of in control. So I just feel like they played that a lot better. Their draft was also a lot stronger than Ignite's was.
Well, looks like we're about ready to start thinking about this next map. We're going to be going into Stone Keep for this next one here, Fawn. We just saw Bright March conclude on that first map where InControl took a pretty dominant win. So if you're Ignite, you got to start finding a way to make some adjustments. I mean, we started thinking this back in that first set up against
Mhm.
Europe. Maybe take away this Inara. Maybe start considering some bans there because it provides so much in terms of that solo tank potential. The Barrack was having trouble matching it. I mean, maybe you don't even have to take it away, but there are a lot of other beefy tanks out there. We've even seen some value come from the Torvald in one very specific context. So there's maybe some other options if the Barrack isn't getting it done for Penny.
Yeah, I think in that situation you would have to have drafted Rom. Like I think
Sure.
personally, if you're on the side of Ignite with Bright Marsh being the case, there's a lot of choke points, meaning they can't really move out of the way from Rom just running right through your back line, right? I mean, you have to draw eyes towards somewhere else. In control, we're able to play that as comfortably and as commonly as they wanted to, thanks to that Grover being there and their backline presence. They had that Vivian as well. Perfect. We have a Grover as well. Even more perfect. We're just going to sit back, make sure that the Vivian is sustained up. She's going to do as much damage and spread it out to as many targets as we need to focus. And because of that, they're not drawing any eyes towards anywhere else. Angelo couldn't make it into the back without getting picked apart like that. So it made it a lot harder for them to try and fight for these sides without anyone that unequivocally would have had to made them look at their back line.
Yeah, perhaps not having that other sort of additional threat or being a little too one-dimensional hurt them there. As In Control will be taking the Androxus first overall. Look at these bands, the Genos band again, but this time so is the Corvus, the Shaolin, and the Zin all removed. And Ignite in a post-Corvus, post-Genos world elect to take the Damba relatively early on in the draft alongside this Vivian. I know that you've been fond of this Grover here lately. Do you like the Damba being taken this early?
I do actually, and I think part of the reason why I would say that is because that brings their sort of own sustainability to the pool, right? If you have any sort of strong point presence, Dama's going to toss the gourd directly on the point, and then he's going to look at everyone else, right, and make sure they're all healed up as much as possible. Meaning that if there is any sort of side fight being lost, that extra inhabitants is now being delivered thanks to Maldamba. He's able to live in a lot of these different fights without having to put himself in harm's way. If anyone dives onto him, you're going to just slither away. That's just how it's going to be. So I do like the Maldamba, and I like the Anara and the Fernando on the side of Ignite. But once again, Anara's been like 100-0 at this point, right? Like I think really you should just try and put a damper on that.
Yeah, pick an R if you can, is what I've learned from this
Yes.
last week so far, Paladins. But I think that this Fernando is the exact kind of tank pick you were talking about that synergizes with this Damba in terms of dropping down that gourd. The Buck gives them that flexibility where he can be that sort of diver or flanker essentially for them and have still a semi tanky presence. So, not a bad dress so far from Ignite. But take a look here at what we've got for In Control. That Ying coming through to try and provide some of that additional healing there for them. The Anara is the beefy tankiness, but they've got the double flankers as well with the Androxus and the Mave.
Yeah, they're trying to make it as uncomfortable as possible for that Vivian. I mean, if you have a double flank, that means that you're trying to make sure that Vivian doesn't have an easier time, right? You want to make sure that you put as much pressure on her, make sure she can't just free fire. And I believe that's why they have the Buck on their side as well on Ignite. They just want to try and live long enough to make sure that they can help peel for that Vivian and see if they can come out on top of the end at the end of the day. With Madamba at their backs, it could be really, really good for them to really just take control of more of these situations.
So there'll be Stone Keep for map number 2 here, Fawn, between Ignite and In Control. In Control with a dominant first map performance. It was 4-1 with one defense being really the only thing Ignite could get going. And now here on to Stone Keep, where it's certainly possible to see another scoreline. We saw 4-0 just a little while ago back in Europe on this very same map. So this could be an interesting one. We'll have to see how well Penny on the Fernando this time can match up against Ice Monkeys and Nara.
Yeah, and when you have a Ying on your side in this situation, I think it's okay to be able to have this Ying and expect her to be able to really heal a lot of people because not only did she start off with the morale boost, but you have a lot of situations where that illusory rift is going to play a huge part in how both Androxus and Maeve are going to play, especially when they know that it's up. They can be a lot more aggro, even more so than they can be, right, with having a double flank composition. So that's going to mean a lot, and that's going to take eyes off of Victor, which means he's going to be able to sit in the back line and free fire pretty much as he wants to.
Well, let's see if this Ying does indeed enable the aggression from this double flank composition from In Control. Looks like In Control go church side to start things off, whereas Ignite head over towards Keep. Ignite send out the Fernando first, and they start to build up a little bit of the percent. But still waiting patiently is In Control before they start to push out and try and find their chance to take over the side. The shield broken for Penny. That means Penny will have to fall back. Ice Monkey gladly steps down onto the point, builds up a little percent, but Penny is right back to contend in this battle. Now it looks like In Control are considering coming over and battling over this Keep. But instead they're going to head to the back line.
Yeah, they're going to head directly to the back line because they know that Buck is back there. Tuga is there to try and catch him out, but they actually do manage to pick off the Vivian, which is not really what I was expecting with Buck being in the back. I mean, I guess they were able to push up, and he was able to take more control over the Keep. Look at those picks because they were trying to force so many people to look away from the point, but it just didn't end up working out for how Ignite may have planned.
I like the idea, though. A 2-for-1 trade where you give up your Inara is certainly not bad. 78% though for Ignite, as they're already looking a bit better here in this current mid-fight. Have to give up the control, though. Penny's right back out there and planting himself on the point. And it's controlling this Keep side, I feel like, that's really causing problems for In Control. Ignite able to get the mid-capture, and really In Control, it felt like with that low ground church side, we're never able to find a way to push back in.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I mean, Ice Monkey pushed up with some members of his team and to try and make sure they could try and take control of Keep, but they just were capping the point that entire time. They weren't really there for most of that point presence. I mean, they were winning the fights on the side, sure, but what does that mean if you don't capture the objective? I mean, that just means that you're going to end up throwing the game in the long run, and there he is, stepping up a little bit too far, and Droxus, as soon as the Illusory Rift runs out, they just push into him.
Amadeus falls. Tuga's right behind him on the Victor, and somehow this Cassie's still standing. Kaiser finally lands the shot, but ends up getting traded back out by the Vivian, and Ignite can finally get this payload actually moving. Amadeus is back, though, standing up on the high ground, trying to put out some shots, but Ignite, using this buck from Deja Vu to move forward, should be able to contest that very same high ground. Amadeus rethinking whether or not he can just freely walk in the way he was before, and the payload continues to run up behind them, though they do end up losing once.
Tuga does manage to at least find that pick on the Vivian, which that's pretty huge, and that also forces Ignite to back up, as you see them doing already, but next to the Dampagor, they're not really going far. That's just that sort of survivability that Dom was able to bring to the table. Everybody groups up and make sure they hide around a corner, and then Dom tosses out the gourd, everybody heals up, but everybody's happy at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's just what Valdamba provides. That sort of same sustainability that we see on the side of Corvus, or maybe even Genos as well. It's brought out as well on the side of Dom.
A good defense here from InControl so far. They have really kept Ignite pinned down, just barely a little bit pushed up beyond the church. Their payload, or rather the cart, has not made really a ton of progress here for Ignite at all. Barrage coming out for one shot for some decent damage. Grenade follows it up right behind, but at this point InControl have given up a lot of their aggressive positioning. They used to be contesting this high ground spot where we see the buck right now, but it looks like they've given that up. Amadeus instead is over battling it out with the Cassie. Meanwhile, the Fernando has brought this card slowly around inside the arch. Now Amadeus is back up and contesting this high ground and trying to keep them at bay. Reversal used to buy him a little bit of time, but he lands right down in front of the Fernando, ends up giving up the life to the buck as they clean up the kill. And inside overtime, Ignite have a chance to find this conversion.
Yeah, very good Fernando Immortal on the tail end, like not necessarily on the tail end of the fight, but more so when they were just trying to find their way onto the point, retake the objective. He used the Immortal to make sure they all were sustained up there as soon as the Victor ended up using the barrage, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not too sure if it worked out for him, especially when Amadeus gets that double.
That double kill should be enough, and yes, the successful defense does come through for InControl. Not able to find any additional kills on the backside of that, but I think InControl did a really good job of stalling them out on that initial push by contesting that high ground, and then when they did finally push through, trusting Amadeus, trusting their flankers to find some of those multi-kills to set them up.
Yeah, when the Illusory Rift was used, I mean, they did push in. I mean, Amadeus is all the way back in keep towards their spawn, at least trying to get there when Ignite were on the lookout for him, but as soon as it ran out, they just killed him. Maybe the Illusory Rift with the Ying is really the only thing that they have an opportunity to do. I mean, maybe that's the only thing they can do is play off of that Illusory Rift.
Maybe so.
Because they're not able to actually find that sort of control that they were looking for with these two flanks. I thought they would be playing a lot more aggressive, but those illusions only go so far, so, I mean, they have to play a little bit more careful at the same time.
Well, yet again, InControl come over to church, and Ignite get basically free control of Keith. They have pushed Penny off the point much faster this time, though, which is worth it. Amadeus barely making it back towards safety, using that reversal at the tail end for some safety, but that leaves Ice Monkey out there on an island. He dies early on. Deja Vu is in the backline and keeping the support from getting there, so the percent starts to rack up for Ignite. Tuga considering trying to answer back by using that barrage to drop a couple shots. He does indeed end up using them all, but no kills come from it. Kubi's even gets the kill on Amadeus just on the back end of that reversal going down, and Ignite seem to be looking much better here on Stone Keep.
You know, the minute that Ice Monkey makes it back up in the high ground, they're already looking at him. He has to make a point of anything, and even though he is able to touch, he's drawing so many eyes towards him. It's a little bit too much. Nobody else on the side of InControl can make their way back onto the site. It's just not going to work out that way because of how much damage that Vivian is able to plug into that single target. The minute that we saw that they had to back up, the minute that Andro and Maeve couldn't do anything, Ice Monkey pushing so far up, the minute that happened, Ice Monkey went down. That was it. That was the end of the story, and that lost the control over that fight. And you have the Immortal here to be able to peel for Vivian as well. That's kept him alive so many times.
Yet again, we've seen multiple times now these ultimates used just to sort of secure pressure to keep pushing a little bit on the backside of that cap. And I think that's so important to be able to get as much much cart progress as you can as early on in the push as possible. And that's exactly what we've seen Penny trying to prioritize. Ignite, though, finally being stalled out a little bit as InControl regain this cart position and have pushed back Ignite at least towards Church, but it looks like they're ready to surge back out again as soon as Buck's ready to leap.
They toss out the door towards the cart so that way they can at least try and make it back on there. But, I mean, they might not even need to do that, if anything. I mean, if Vivian's going to be able to keep getting the kills that she is because of how much damage she's able to output so consistently, it makes it that much easier for him. But very good wall from Inara, too.
That separates Deja Vu, and he ends up falling. I liked the leap in initially, but just did not have the damage to burst on Inara, of all things, down quite that quickly. So Ignite, still the ones in a good spot here with a minute left in the bank as they've already made it towards Arch. Look where the cart is, it's right outside. You can tell that InControl feel some of that pressure. They're backing back. Well, Amadeus goes up to the sky, does get the first kill, but the Sentinel allows her Orniskin to answer back and finds the return kill. So they end up trading out 1-for-1. And with that, Androx is down for now. Can we perhaps see Deja Vu choose to try and get aggressive?
Yeah, Buck ended up using the Buck Wild as well, but that Dread Serpent actually plays an extremely huge part in how they're going to try and roll this one in. Big damage into the Cassie as well. That's pretty huge. And it's just, they're trying to end this right now.
That's what it feels like. Deja Vu goes in first. Good damage. That sounds for Penny to get the kill into Amadeus. But no need for any more announcements on how this push is going to go. Ignite have already found it. It's 3-1, and now we're coming into a mid-fight, and InControl are in the same position Ignite were, where they have not yet figured out how to win a mid-fight, and suddenly they've got to do it here.
Yeah, I mean, that was one off of the back of that Dread Serpent. That Dread Serpent was absolutely huge because it feared away the targets that were already pushing through with the cart, and it made sure they were able to capitalize on anyone that may have tried to stop them from rolling the cart right on through. Inara was there, she got feared. Two members of the team on InControl got feared, and they got both of those picks back to back instantly, and because of that, they were able to capitalize on it.
Well, we'll ride along with Ice Monkey. So far, he's had some trouble maintaining control of this midpoint. It's felt like he's been left a little bit on an island by this control from Ignite so far. I mean, we have asked for an Inara L to come through. Perhaps we might be seeing it here, but Kaiser says no with an early opening pick on Dakubi's. Tuga needs a little bit of help, but wins the battle up against Deja Vu with a little bit of help from Ice Monkey. And remember, they'll have the fast cap helping them out, so maybe InControl are right back in this match. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, wishing for an L for the Inara.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I mean, at least they're able to control the point. I mean, this is probably the most we've seen InControl.
Yeah.
Once again, this pun's coming through. This is the most we've seen them being in control of the situation. I mean, like, this is it. Like, they're on point. They're locking down so many different angles, and they're doing extremely well on the side of blue. They just end up winning that off of the back of a seismic crash, a well-placed seismic crash from Inara.
Well, InControl do end up winning the mid-fight, but it's 3 kills that come through for Ignite in the backside. So the same way that we saw Ignite able to, on the back of their mid-cap, find some pressure and start getting that cart moving, that is not working here for InControl. Instead, it's a near full team wipe, and they're going to have to start working basically from ground zero, from nothing, to try and get this cart converted.
Yeah, I think it's just too much sustainability on the side of Ignite, even though they were able to actually able to capture the point on the side of InControl. I mean, that Maldamba just has so much healing available to him. I mean, Ying's struggling to try and keep up because the Illusory Rift is really the only thing that is their go button on this team, along with the Seismic Crash. But even Inara used it by herself when she was trying to get a singular kill on Cassie, and she did. I feel like they're playing a little bit too split up at this point. They're not really playing together as a team. They're trying to play together as best as they can, but I think with 2 flanks, it's just sort of splitting up the mentality.
This is such an aggressive zone, and I suppose after 2 successful mid-controls, perhaps Ignite are just comfortable at this point being this far pushed up into the territory of InControl. Finally, they end up biting off a little bit more than they can chew, but I mean, do you even feel bad about it? They've chewed up so much of this time from InControl with only a minute left to start this push. Certainly still doable, though, for the InControl squad, but going to be a bit of an uphill battle as Deja Vu is holding this angle. They certainly know someone's back here. At the very least, they're putting some damage in towards Penny, as Ignite tried to keep them at bay for a little while longer.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, I guess that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. I mean, they are able to keep them back a little bit, but I mean, eventually that cart's going to roll right on through because somebody's going to end up getting picked or they're going to end up taking too much damage and they have to forfeit that space, which is exactly what happened here on the side of Ignite. They had to forfeit the space it was that they had already gained because everyone was getting too low. They were being looked at from too many angles. It made it just that much harder, but thanks to the Dama Gourd, I mean, Fernando's able to stand where he wants to, but even still, he's getting brought super low, but no one's getting a pick. They can't push this cart around this corner.
20 seconds to work with 3 ultimates for InControl, so perhaps that's going to be enough, especially if this Midnight ends up coming up. I mean, maybe you want to try and save it for this next mid fight if you can find the conversion without it, but if I'm InControl, it kind of feels like you really want this conversion. You could end up in a situation where you need 2 mid wins in a row if they're not able to find it. Some healing coming out from Max Sosa, though, trying to keep the squad healthy. Amadeus steps out and Tuga gets the first kill, taking care of the Vivian. So now it's time for the Androx to step on the gas, because Kaiser is able to get the kill into Penny, but Deja Vu gets the return kill, but Sosa finds the next. That's 3 kills in favor of InControl. Another one as Sosa gets the double, and they are able to find the conversion and hold on to all 5 ultimates spawn. That is huge.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane. I mean, to be able to catch that out at the last possible second to make sure that you have those picks available, even if it is on the Ying side, she only has 2 kills. Okay, those were the only 2 kills that she needed to get this entire game, right? I mean, you have the assist to show for it. She's trying to keep as much of her team as up as possible.
Yeah.
And she's even sort of catching up to where the Damba is, maybe even a little bit, but still Damba's in with a huge lead. She's catching up to him, at least in the 200,000 mark. But at the same time, Damba's just able to sustain so many hit people. Once again, what keeps happening? Somebody stands on point, he tosses out the gourd, he heals one, he heals the other, and that's literally what just keeps happening.
Still, though, Ignite have a lot of their important ultimates. The Immortal there, so they could potentially make something off it. The Dread Serpent as well. But I think Toga's showing some of the strength here of this Victor right now with that Barrage, using it to buy a little bit of space for InControl as Amadeus is able to find that opening pick, making good use of that Accursed Arm. Kaiser's right there behind him, taking care of Deja Vu. This is the strongest we've seen InControl look, even though Ignite are the ones that start off with that percent lead. Now InControl are racking it up, but Ignite are right back on their way to fight back in.
Yeah, that's already an even percentage for him. So, I mean, that has to be pretty good on the side of InControl. I mean, maybe we did speak a little bit too early about the L that Anara could potentially have.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that might just be her, man. I mean, that's just the amount that she brings to the table. But everyone's grouped up and so low in this corner. This could be huge.
That's right, Penny trying to dash in and see how many they can lock down. Kubi's already got one. Deja Vu was able to get the other, and he is looking for Toga as well. Can't quite lock him down, but they might already have done enough, especially if they get this kill onto Ice Monkey. They're delaying it on purpose, keeping him the furthest possible from being able to come back out and contest. Now with 81%, someone else from InControl has to find the touch. It's Kaiser that comes in first to deny a bit of percent, but it costs Kaiser his life. 99%, the OT is counting down, and Ignite have to be feeling good at this point. Amadeus on his way in. He buys a little bit of extra time. Ice Monkey's finally back and is just barely able to make it onto the point to touch as well. Gets down the wall and maybe can keep things going, but make quick work of Ice Monkey as well. Do Ignite, and that is enough. They find the win here on Stone Keep.
I think it came down to, throughout that game, just to the battle of the healers, if anything. I mean, it was really a huge discrepancy between the Maldamba and the Ying. I did mention in the very beginning that I felt like they were going to really step on the gas when the Illusory Rift was out. But every time they did, Ignite just backed up. They gave them the space, they forfeited it, and then they got the picks whenever they tried to push it up too far. Like I said, I knew when they were going to use the Illusory Rift that they were going to try and be as aggressive as possible. But once that ran out, they were just in a bad spot. They were in an awful spot, and they would get picked off every single time. That double flank, sure, that's a great composition to try and draft, but at the same time, you still get picked off almost instantly because of the healing that Maldamba has. He's able to spread out too much, and they just couldn't break through that.
They did. There were some struggles, at least a little bit for InControl that time, but they brought it back much, much closer than I think anyone would have thought they had any right to, considering where they were earlier on in that map on Stone Keep. We saw some great stuff from them, but it just was not quite enough for them to be able to drag it all the way through and find that win. So we're still at a pretty interesting point here in this set. There's been some back and forth battles, and Nara finally taking an L, so maybe I can rest a little bit easy, at least for my mental sake here at this point, Fawn. So I don't even know what we could expect from these next matches coming up.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, we've seen some interesting picks as well. I mean, this is more that we've seen Maldamba. Last time we saw Grover in the EU bracket. This time around, we see the Maldamba, and that's going to be pretty big for them. I mean, maybe they might even try and draft it again this go around. But I mean, at the same time, nothing can beat that Genos Corvus. If they keep those bands coming right on through, we'll be able to see some different healers.
Hopefully that'll open up that pool just a little bit. I mean, how could we not want to get right into the action for this next match? Got to give us a few minutes though. We're going to get everything ready. We'll be right back with a little bit more of this Brazil action. Welcome back to the Paladins Pro Circuit. We are still in the middle of our Brazil set here between InControl and Ignite Gaming. This has been a back and forth battle here so far. I believe Fawn had to step away, so I believe I'm going to be joined on this one by Kresnik to help me out here just a little bit. Kind of doing it all for us here right now, but this has been an excellent set here so far, so I really am excited to hop back into it.
Yeah, me too for sure. I mean, InControl was a team that was really kind of contesting with these top teams in Brazil, that the way that no one else really was. I mean, they were taking down Carnage earlier. They were the ones that kept pushing Parallax to the limit with or without their support in both of the games. They managed to always take him right to the edge. So love to see them playing. And with I would say an upgrade on DPS. I know who they had before was fantastic, but having King Kaiser, someone who basically single-handedly kept Team Clarity, I think, in contention with a lot of these other teams. Having him, you'd think they'd be super dominant, but Ignite Gaming, these grinders, top of the leaderboard in the previous split was Deja Vu. Him coming in, kind of spearheading a lot of the pressure on this team. We saw how much space that Buck and Penny on that Nando were making last game. This coordination that they've kind of gained so quickly. I'm impressed with how much of a fight they're putting up against InControl.
It's been impressive, and I think highlighting Deja Vu is exactly the right thing. It feels like he's doing really whatever it is that Ignite need from him. He's been flexible enough to sort of adjust to those calls on the fly. And I wonder if we've been making maybe a little bit too much of this Inara conversation. I mean, she has certainly seemed strong for what we've seen so far and difficult to deal with in terms of what she provides as just that main tank point presence. But we saw finally in that last answer, finally getting a little bit dealt with in keeping her backline from giving her support while she's on the point, and then when she's isolated, being at least a relatively easy target for them to take down.
I mean, that is the counterplay to the Inara, right? If you push past her, if you manage to get into the fight with the backline and kill them fast enough, you can make it work. That's really what it comes down to, right? But there's a lot of, when you draft double support, when you draft these flankers that can kind of just run away and keep that space being made between you and them, how do you get that fight won, right? You go in the back, maybe you dive in Androxus, he triple dashes away. Suddenly, oh, well, now that play didn't work. Now we have to deal with this Inara that's so established on the point, didn't have to use cooldowns because we weren't focusing her. She really just bleeds out your time and forces you to deal with her. But I think they dealt with the Inara pretty well there. They had that triple DPS. They basically said, all right, look, we don't care about the rest of your team. We're just going to lock them out all game. And anytime you try to take a single step on that objective, we are going to delete you. And clearly, they're still comfortable dealing with it without a ban coming in. All 4 bans now are confirmed. Xin and Ash for InControl, so a little aggro duo for Ice Mines kind of taken out, and Corvus and Shaolin for Ignite. Shaolin really seem to be targeting really targeting this Shaolin for them. They want their flankers to be able to do whatever they want. Get rid of that cripple arrow, get rid of that burst damage, and force a worse backline flanker matchup.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a thing just kind of here in Brazil. We don't see it spreading quite as much as the other regions. I don't think Europe has really seen it. Maybe a little bit in North America there as well. But some of those bans do mean some of the strong picks are going to make it through. And Genos happily taken by InControl in that first spot. That does obviously mean, though, they're leaving that Inara potentially open to go the other way. And that's exactly where it's going to end up. Inara, take that pick. We just highlighted how much attention she can grab or how differently she can force you to play, especially when we're going to pair that with the Victor, the Barrage, such a strong, versatile ultimate to go alongside that, and obviously tons of damage from the ADS.
Yeah, and I think having this Inara, I just mentioned how, yes, you can maybe ignore the Inara push past her, but not on Ice Mines. This map is just too small when it comes down to it. Where the game really matters is that mid fight, right? In that small, compressed area with the barn, the stage, and the point. She can rotate so quickly to either side that if you try to ignore her, if you try to force your way through, she's just going to put herself in the way and make herself a threat, one that you have to deal with. So I think even after ignoring the Inara before, I still think it's a great pickup here to have rotate there, use your walls to lock down chokes completely. You can live from backlines and windows. Just an overall solid tank pick on ice. And DPS to follow it up. Victor and Cassie, they both have what you'd need on Ice Mines. I think solid ultimates. Cassie's is more of a counter ultimate, but Victor's, you know, you can combo that with anything, get some kills, especially good into that Atlas. Being able to, and Strix actually, being able to barrage the Strix and invisibility and barrage the Atlas from the other side of his temporal divide.
And we have seen that be a pretty good answer to the Atlas, but we have seen a ton of Atlas value today, at least back over in Europe. So I'm kind of glad we're seeing it here. I feel like throughout these first 2 games, a little bit maybe ignored when he deserves some value. Even things like the Barrack coming through, when those have been front lines that have struggled after some of the changes that the Barrack has seen. So the Atlas Fernando feels pretty strong from where I'm sitting, with that Strix in the back line to provide the damage. Just probably one more DPS needed. And it's the Talus. And we have seen this Talus do really well on Ice Mines. Get to the back line, find some of those entrenched DPS and remove them, and that has created a lot of space for the rest of the team. So both of these drafts feeling pretty strong already.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say earlier today we saw Talus struggle slightly. I would say Devosi, I kept wanting to jump to his POV, and I just couldn't. Good conscious not. Every time I saw like 0 and 7 on that post game screen, he was putting on decent pressure, but he just kept getting burnt down. They had all the counters in place, and counter pick maybe for them. I mean, they have the Grover already to deal with it, but Tiberius here, that can slow down aggression quite a bit. You hit them with that heavy blade, that is a 50% slow. They are effectively walking through mud that they have to deal with, and you're going to be able to burn down that Talus pretty quickly, especially potentially combined with that CC coming in from the Grover, slow from the Inara. Just very hard to get an aggressive comp in, so I think the pressure from InControl kind of comes down to the Strix and the Atlas, this poke game. How well can they trade into this triple backline effectively from Ignite? And that's hard. That's a big ask. How much does this Strix have to do to beat a Victor, a Cassie, and a Tiberius, all gunning him down if the flanker can't make any pressure?
Yeah, I wonder if maybe they're putting a little bit too much pressure onto this Strix to sort of be able to provide all that damage. I mean, I felt that way earlier when we were watching a different situation. When we were watching Princess Becca play on that tank, it felt like they were putting so much of the responsibility onto that pick. And feels like maybe a similar thing happening for this Strix, being responsible for a lot of that damage they're providing. But we'll get our chance to see how this is all going to play out. We are not too far from moving into Ice Mines as this third and very important map. It's 1-1 in the set right now between InControl and Ignite. And winning this map, winning Ice Mines in particular, could be a huge point of momentum for either one of these teams moving forward.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think they're going to try to keep that pressure with them, I think. Ice Monkey here with against Ignite Gaming. They're going to have to try to find a way to put the Inara in the way and maybe stall the momentum that is coming in from the side of Ignite. Like those drafts were actually... Oh no, they were correct. Just swapped sides there. I actually got really worried that I flipped that around, but InControl still going to be first pick. Ignite. I'm actually deja vu on this Talus. Maybe not what I expected. I think I might have expected him to be on that Strix, but he wants to play this Talus, wants to be aggressive. I guess it makes sense with him being the Androxus player, but interesting how I've seen that go around. Ignite, I think they're going to have to push behind this Talus, behind this Nando, excuse me, on the far side, and hope that that Nando shield is enough to make room into all this damage coming from the other side.
Deja Vu getting aggressive positioning-wise, but he's afforded that by the ability to bounce back quickly back towards safety. So Igniter onto the point first and already build up a small bit of percentage with this Fernando in place, but he'll have to contend with Ice Monkey and all this damage on the backside of it. It's not just this Inara, but it's also the Victor, it's also the Cassie, it's also the Tiberius bouncing in damage from all these extra angles. Not going to be an easy one for Ignite to hold on to, as Kuba is already being forced off his sightline, as I expect will be happening a lot throughout this game, able to step forward a little bit more and provide some shots, but from here, it's feeling like he's not quite able to get the value you might expect from this Strix. Finally, though, the first blood does come through, but it's on the other side. It's King Kaiser on the Tiberius that takes care of the Atlas first.
Yeah, they had to burn through that Atlas to actually get into Barn, so now the Strix is going to have a much harder time. The peel coming in from Exceeds just a little bit too late. This Strix was literally uncontested for the start of that fight. Entirely. Yeah. He sat there. They couldn't break through on either side, so he was able to free fire, but everyone just backed up and hid. They weren't as concerned about that Talus pushing with the Nando. They only had one person matching him, and that's not where Kubi's was looking. Ignite. Rough hill to climb, I think, to potentially retake this, but actually Penny gets on mount in front of everybody, just goes right past. They know he's there, but they couldn't stop him, and he should be able to get the point touch.
is going to be able to dash in and just barely find the touch. That stops the percent at 93, but he falls instantly. King Kaiser and the rest of the squad able to clean him up easily. OT now ticking, as Kaiser knows that there's going to be a little bit of trouble coming his way. The Atlas trying to step forward, but doesn't he look like hot butter getting melted through? Nice kill coming through as Ice Monkey gets the credit for it. Kubi's recognizing a chance to get some damage in the back, but InKnight certainly going to be able to grab this first midpoint, get the capture, and now stepping forward, really already going to be able to find some nice, decent little bit of control out here as they push beyond that midpoint.
I felt the pain coming out of Penny when he touched that objective. He got in, but then he was Heavy Blade slowed and Inara slowed, stacking on top of each other. Literally could not move, and that's why they couldn't save him, even though it is also just Nando heals with that. Look at this space they're buying right now. Ice Monkey coming up. I mean, there's a 4-second shield. He can't really burn through it alone. He can step back in. This could just be a free pick for them with Ice Monkey maybe getting a little over-aggressive.
Maybe a little bit too far forward, getting some healing, but it will not be enough. Penny is the one that gets the last bit of damage as Ice Monkey steps too far forward. But I wonder if that trade might even be worth it, Krez. Look how far they've gotten this cart pushed already just in that window he gave them. Kaiser having to step back after getting a little bit aggressive himself. Now it's just this last arch they're trying to push through as Deja Vu gets some decent damage in, but cannot find the kill. It's Toga that comes out on top, and with those two picks, InControl should be able to keep right on roll.
I thought they just combined the Nando and the Talus, it looked like, on that push up top, but Talus ended up not being able to finish off any kills. He was playing the juke game instead of the, hey, I'm invincible, so I can just stand still and stare you down game. With another trade in the backline happening, and they want this true power to save them, but all it does is knock down Amadeus to a different angle and waste effectively an ultimate that they could have for the mid if this does roll in.
If this does roll in, feels like the big question. Deja Vu trying to come up top, but look at Penny already being pushed off their high ground. That shield being brought down quite quickly means they have to fall back. Keep your eye on Atlas and this Talus and their ability to move through. Toga, they know, is already low. The Talus did get back there and find the double, get King Kaiser and Toga. That is huge to be able to find those two kills. Deja Vu does get traded out on the backside, so we're 2 for 1. Seems like good value.
Max actually getting some good damage here. This is one of the reasons you pick Rover. I mean, he has great healing, great AoE, doesn't need to peek for it, which is one of the reasons he's so high value on Ice Mines. But also, when you get to this point in the map, I mean, if this Strix missteps for a second, he's going to walk right into quite a bit of damage from that axe, and there comes those slows into effect, stopping Deja Vu, chasing down Ice Monkey. Another one, again, slowed. He just can't pick a lane, and Penny gets abandoned and dies.
Toga able to get the curl credit for it, but a great ultimate coming out from Z's that shuts down Souza. Amadeus falls as well on the Victor, and now we're into overtime, but with 3 kills coming through all at once, that should leave Ice Monkey here relatively vulnerable. I doubt we'll really see Kaiser be able to do a whole lot here without his entire team, so that is the successful defense, and now we were wondering if we'd see value come from that true power, but now 88% on that ult charge, and I think that Ignite are feeling pretty good about their defense.
Yeah, I was just concerned about them actually being able to push it in, you know, and just make
right,
it so
I
they
agree.
won't have it in time. But they did lose the main combo with it. I think the true power plus the time and space, if you're coordinated enough, is what you want to be doing to guarantee a free kill. And they won't even have it for the dismount either, so what it's going to be at this time is if Kubi's gets someone low, Kubi's gets a headshot, then maybe you true power in to follow up. That's how you end up finishing off that kill, and then you hope your Talus is able to get away without getting slowed by or rooted by everybody else on the team that's just waiting, foaming at the mouth to burn down this Talus as soon as he enters that space. This forward mounting, I think how the dismounts go here is going to be crucial. Ignite, they have the hit scan for these dismounts, which InControl doesn't have unless they abandon their backline to do it. And it looks like they do. Both projectile characters actually get off their mounts and give up a lot of room just to make sure that InControl can't get that forward.
Well, it looks like it works, at least for now. Remember last time, Strix had a lot of time to shoot, but I don't know how many high-value shots he was able to find. Well, I can tell you the answer this time is that Penny has dropped early on. That's going to make it way harder on this Strix. Kaiser able to take care of the Atlas as well, and suddenly the frontliners for Ignite have already been shredded out. Kaiser starts to roll forward, makes it to the back, gets to the Kubi, Zeets falls as well, and even though they lose Tuga in the trade, InControl certainly loving that. They might even have already gotten the cap just off that fight.
But they have a guaranteed touch because of the true power. Actually, not guaranteed because he used the DR so early. So smart by him. But they give up. They look away. They don't see Penny coming in, so they still get that overtime. But what can they make happen with Penny so low?
Well, Ice Monkey has been pushed back, gets the wall up. That allows him to stay alive, at least for now. Penny's low. They send the Atlas in first to try and find some kind of touch, and Kubi's is back in position to try and find some snipes. So maybe he can buy them a little bit of time. He can continue to put out big damage. But Kaiser on this Tiberius is causing problems. Tuga gets the first kill credit for it. Kubi's falls as well on that Strix. They were able to get back there to him. Amadeus takes care of the Talus, and suddenly it's disaster yet again for Ignite on this mid fight. Tuga gets the last bit of damage there into Zeeds, and that is the mid heading towards InControl.
They're going to get this forward zone as well. I think with the timing of those picks, they can go really far forward. Only one healer for them, and he was down, so they know that all their damage is going to stick, at least for a while, depending on their self-sustain, but they can't go too far forward because of the Strix, I feel. If they presented themselves in that wide open angle, that Strix, I think, is going to have a pretty big advantage, and actually being this far back is kind of baiting Deja Vu. He put his rune down pretty far away. Expected, I think, to catch somebody out, but all he saw was Amadeus waiting super far away, and there he's just eating poke while trying to make something happen.
Ends up using the ultimate there as well, as this fight has continued to roll in InControl's favor. Kubi's has found a decent position to find a nice snipe. Amadeus ends up getting put down. Had to take a seat in the penalty box for a little while as the Strix still hitting and has slowed down this momentum just a little bit. But this is where I feel like we've seen a little bit of struggles here for Ignite so far. This mid-fight's going to continue to be a struggle for them. Even though their defense is solid, I feel like they're setting themselves up for a much harder Ice Mines than necessary if they can't find a way to break through in those point fights.
Yeah, I think it's... I want them to be able to have the ultimates to actually engage and get those early picks, and I think that's what will turn it around for them. They just have to be a little more cautious down to the 115 mark. This is when ultimates might not be charged back up in time, depending. Actually, InControl, they don't want their ultimates either, I guess, with a seismic crash just to stop a solo Nando from flanking. Interesting choice, and might just lose ice on the rotate with him living at 46 HP.
Hey, but Penny's dead. You can't argue with that one, right? As he did end up falling on the back end. Maybe not the maximum value they could have gotten out of that ultimate. Kaiser does take care of the Atlas as well. Just looking for some bounces to try and fight Kubi's, but Kubi's comes over the top, pins down Kaiser, does eventually get traded back out by Soza, but this is all as part of this aggressive zone. I mean, even still, we haven't seen Control make it back to the cart. They're almost there now, so they're finally starting to push back Ignite and maybe get this offense back under control.
And they buy a little bit more time with that temporal divide. Big shield, all it really does, it buys you time if you don't place it aggressively. It makes they can't peek during the 5 seconds that it's up. So once I'm getting some value out of that, but now he doesn't have his cooldowns or anything left, and he's probably feeling thankful that Kubi's managed to pick up that kill. And it's going to help him take this room. Shield comes up, and now not a single backline can win, and Kubi's is watching the crack shot.
Yeah, he's doing everything for him right now on this Strix. It's not showing up for them the way they want to in those mid-battles, but on the defense, it's been nasty, hasn't he? Been able to use these long sight lines on Ice Mines to find some nasty shots. The rest of the squad's up forward. Of course, it'll be the successful defense with Ignite playing it that well, and they're going to come in with 4 ultimates for the mid-fight, and the Talus ultimate not too far from being charged as well.
Yeah, so no dismount potential, but they will get it fast enough to actually have it to use here. And that seismic crash that I mentioned Ice Monkey spending on Penny earlier, only at 55%. He doesn't really have a point tank to trade into. Yes, he'll be fighting Nando, but Penny will have his shield up the majority of the time. That's not damage that gets you any closer to charging your ultimate ability. One of the kind of advantages of having a shield tank, or tank that has that as their HP, is that denial of ultimate charge. So on a map like Ice Mines, you can see even more value than normal out of it, I would say. Master Riding's getting picked up all over the place by the members of Ignite, so they might be able to get up there quickly with not a lot on InControl. So if Xseeds dismounts here and actually knocks some of them off, you have more Master Riding than them, Xseeds. Hold off at least 2 seconds. Give them a chance to catch up.
Right, he got there so fast that the ultimate was way out in front of everybody else. I like the idea, but I don't know if that quite got the value that he was looking for there. Either way, InControl are the first ones on to the point, and they've already got some percent building up as Penny is stuck over near Bard, but King Kaiser wants to go way to the back and see if he can get back behind him for the kill. It does not work for what it's worth as Kubi stuffs him. It's a double. He takes down Soza as well. Finally, the Strix showing up for them in a mid-fight like they needed, even getting aggressive and looking up beyond the wall to try and find some more shots. They recognize that Ice Monkey is there. He can be locked down as well. The best fight that we have seen from Ignite yet in mid.
Oh, I think that was actually a big misstep at the very end there by InControl. I mean, they managed to get a trade, yes, but they need, I think, to pull their backlines away. Everyone was like, all right, Ice, we got you, buddy. We'll sit right next to the wall with you. Moral support. But then as soon as Ignite broke through, they just couldn't do anything. They didn't have what they needed to. almost actually giving up an ult to Kaiser to give him a retouch, but they hold back behind that shield enough to deny it and ignite. First mid-win this game, I believe. They want to snowball this, I think, if they want to take it, because they have not been looking good when these ultimates are all in the picture.
That's a great point, but I think this is showing some of the strength of good defenses on Ice Mines, because all of a sudden Ignite are the ones threatening a potential map win here, right? Because they get that win off the midpoint, and now with the conversion they could take it. But look at this aggressive positioning from InControl. Ice Monkey ends up paying for it a little bit as Penny gets that kill, and maybe they can push forward and find a bit more. Kubi's has been accurate with these snipe shots. Souza ends up going down. Kubi's gets another one onto Amadeus, and they're going to make more out of this offense than I was giving them credit for.
I wonder how this duel. Okay, I was gonna say I wonder how this duel is gonna go, but it is at the end of the day, it's a Nando versus a Cassie. If Cassie gets even an ounce of healing, she will make it out. Thanks to that somersault reset and a little bit of drain life, which let me see. Actually, not running drain life, but does have the dash reset to kite away and face it a little harder. He needs to combo these time and spaces. You need to maybe time it with a revert, time it with a exile, time it with a true power, but just wants to get those hero picks for his team, and I think it's really hurting him as they just push forward because they know they can take that space.
Yeah, this is going to be the exact opposite of how I was describing. If Ignite can't get this push to work, Kaiser way in the back getting the double kill and the 5 in a row as he continues to find the resets on these aggressive zones. I mean, we're way up beyond where they would normally be here at this point, keeping Ignite pinned down. And if they're able to find this defense, we come into the mid-fight 3-3, and InControl have looked great in all the mid-fights so far, except for this last one.
I mean, it just depends on if Ice decides to use another Seismic Crash when it gets charged up to get rid of that counterplay possibility or another chance for them to engage, but they give up the ground for now. It's better, I think, for them to do this. They have the back lines. At least maybe have Ice Monkey stall out one lane and let the back lines deal with the rest, but actually putting Cassie kind of alone with Ice not buying them any more pressure. Feel lucky that King Kaiser has that record of burn through the Aegis shield.
Amadeus, even going a little bit aggressive as well, using that high ground to find some extra damage with that space that is afforded to him by that aggressive positioning by Ice Monkey. But now Deja Vu looking to wrap around a bit, but Amadeus, not fooled, recognizes and forces him to step back a little bit. They're going to need a snipe from Kubi. It's a good idea to come to him. I agree. If anything positive happens here for InControl, or rather for Ignite, you feel like it's got to be on the back of this sniper scope from him, but Amadeus gets another snipe, and that means he can step forward a little bit more, put some damage into Zeeds, almost enough to find that kill, but he will be able to come up and find Kubi's, and that should be just about enough. You'd think once this overtime ticks down, waiting on him to come back for his Deja Vu and getting that kill as well. There's the defense, and we will go into the 3-3 mid-fight.
The only thing I was going to say about that last fight was if I'm Zeeds, I'm feeding at the end. I am taking the duels that I should never be taking just so I can actually have my ultimate for the next mid, because I mean, it's Ice Mines, it's 3-3. If you go in missing even the tiniest resource, you are going to be at a massive disadvantage against a team that's executing properly. And I think InControl have been. I think they have everything they need right now. Kaiser is 17-4 on this last pick. Tiberius right now, by the way. Just a monstrous performance and showing why you want Tiberius on this map. In general, you have the bounce pressure, you get the slow with the heavy blade, which with the AoE, he kind of is like a hybrid blaster backline. Definitely brings a lot to your team, and a lot of sustain too. I mean, look at his build. No heavy blade resets really, but he is running, focusing on getting shielding, getting healing, and staying alive when times get tough.
Well, they did get Zeeds up here quickly enough to find some dismounts at the very least, to buy a little bit of space for Ignite to move up here first and get into position. But there's the barrage coming out early. That forces Deja Vu to move up. He steps back, though, and is able to reposition. But now, that's left their Atlas out on a bit of an island. But Deja Vu, look to see if he can get Tuga in the back, and he can. Getting rid of the Cassie there is huge. The first pick going in favor of Ignite. So Kaiser going to try and clean it up a little bit, but really can't find a whole lot as he has to come back and rejoin the squad as well.
Oh, Kaiser using the Blade Dance there might actually hurt them if they get zoned out any harder. They really wanted that, I think, to come in for that retouch. But now they're going to have to put Ice Monkey on it into Kubi's and Deja Vu, who are going to be waiting. There's only one tank. They have to push this side with only them right now, but time's ticking down, and Ice Monkey has to make a move for his team now.
He does step up and find that touch that's going to stop the percent building for Ignite for now. Even the wall coming down as a lot of members of Ignite are moving over towards Barnes' side, but just barely didn't have enough damage to get rid of Ice Monkey. Somehow the Inara is still standing. Finally, the Talus steps forward, gets the kill, but there wasn't a touch. It's Ignite that are able to find the win on Ice Mines.
Even after, I think statistically, I wish I could pull them up right now, because I swear Kaiser was like 18-4 or something insane by the end of that game. He was just annihilating there as it was going on. But again, they executed better and they had more counter ultimates, I think. You saw the Seismic Crash come in. They exile in front of it, which is a new interaction that can really only happen this patch now with the CC immunity being added to that. He's going to go down, but then Penny comes in and uses the Immortal. Not Penny. Yeah, the Nano comes in and uses the Immortal, keeps him alive with the rest of that. So now you're seeing these new kind of meta picks really showing their strength. And during that, they're all so distracted on this side of the map. The Tuga's isolated. They true power him. It's like, oh, I don't need a combo. I'll just run at you. And the rest of your team is sitting in one tiny little tunnel.
And that was the big pick, right? That Chalice getting back there to the Cassie and taking them out early. And then they had that 5v4 where he was able to draw some attention from the Victor, put some pressure onto the Inara as well, and get her into a tough spot. They eventually got the pick onto Ice Monkey that forced that reset as well, and had Ice Monkey desperately trying to make it out for one more touch, but they were up around 80% or so. That's an impressive one there from Ignite, man. I mean, we were going back and forth talking about how InControl were playing so well around these mid fights and how it looked like they had all that momentum coming in, but in the end it wasn't enough, and Ignite kind of stayed true playing to their draft and were able to come out that much better on a tough map of Ice Mines.
I think what it is at the end of the day is the fact that when they had the ultimates, they won, right? InControl they won the first mid when there was no ultimates in the picture. InControl won the second mid when Ignite didn't have all the resources that they wanted. Every time Ignite came in 5 strong, they won because they had more counterplay in their side, and I think winning a mid with counter ultimates versus the engage ultimates that I think they had on the side of InControl is the sign of a strong team. If you can play reactively instead of proactively, that means that your communications are so clear. Like, as soon as something happens, you're like, all right, we're doing this up, change of plans. Everyone knows their role well enough that you can make adaptive play in the moment work.
I think it's the hardest kind of way to play Paladins, and as you said, it means that maximum level of coordination in order for it to work. But I think we also got to see one of my favorite things about Paladins, which is this map champ sort of combination, right? The fact that Tiberius becomes so much stronger on Ice Mines to the point where now several days in a row he's gotten max value on that map, but he's not the only one that has that instance. But it shows, I think, what makes this game so much fun to watch, which is that there are all these little things you have to know in order to play correctly and optimally, and we're seeing it happen here.
Yeah, and we are going to be in the picks and bans for the next map now. Speaking of map picks, I think we're going to see some unique stuff potentially on Bazaar. We know long range characters can be strong. We might see some snipers again potentially, but flankers I think played well if your team has a good enough off tank is the key. They can make a lot of room. The map's open, but if the off tank gets in their face, puts a shield in the way, just anything to kind of diffuse the pressure that these backlines might be putting on, I think you can cross that ground. You can get in and you can make the room you need to.
Bazaar is such an interesting map. I don't even know that I've gotten to cast it with you all just yet because
Everyone
of how
bans
often it gets banned so often. But it really is an interesting map because in a way the center is open where the point is, but it's also kind of boxed in at the same time, and there's all these different levels that you're fighting at and lots of different avenues to move around on this type of map as well. So this should be an exciting one that I think to watch here between InControl and Ignite, especially when Ignite have just shown us that they might be the slightly more adaptable team, that in those sort of hectic moments when they need to be able to counter or respond, that they're the team that can do it at that slightly higher level. A lot of the same bands though, Genos, Corvus, and the Shaolin. Only different one is that Fernando will not be allowed this time. Makes some sense after the way that I believe it was Penny played it in that last one, so InControl take it away. And now they'll be coming in with the Strix first overall. Okay, we'll see if that can work. I think this is a map where Strix with some of these long sight lines can definitely get some value.
I mean, I feel like Victor could still be picked into him, right? I feel like Victor is still available to come up, but I guess the map is so wide that Victor actually is playing in that fall-off zone at that point where he's just not doing the same amount of damage as the Strix is going to be uncontested depending on the off-tank, and with Nando gone, I mean, Ashe is still available, but they're taking Atlas instead to potentially play this off-tank role. He's not super aggressive, so this is kind of saying, all right, our backlines are just going to be better than yours. We're going to put up a shield, and that's going to be enough for us to out-damage whatever your Strix is doing.
Yeah, I mean, I got to imagine that they're thinking that that'll buy them enough time to sort of reposition and get to a spot where the Strix is not holding angles that are quite as damning for them to try and fight into, but still going to be difficult. They lock in the Zen next, and that does give them the potential, because we've seen a lot more guillotine than I would have expected lately on these Zens. I don't know what your thought process is on that, but that should give them some potential to quickly take some of these champs off the map.
I mean, guillotine can be good on the maps like this. I think Yomi, when you're playing to just rely on that, sometimes it's good when you're getting around the final corner when everyone's kind of clumped up. But a lot of the time, you're just playing looking at a wall for 2 swings, and then you peek out and get the heavy swing. If you missed, then you got to go back. You got to hit the wall twice again. You got to peek out. It can be so slow, and if you play guillotine, you're not looking to just do that long range poke. You can play on the side. As soon as you get your ult, you just rush that, go and kill someone immediately, get potentially more value, and probably get away most of the time. With the way that these Zins build their loadouts, they're gonna escape most of the time when they guillotine, unless you are focusing them the whole time.
Well, Ying is selected as that next support, and it's interesting when the Corvus and the Genos are both banned out like they are here. I think that opens it down to the next tier where you start thinking about Damba, Ying, and then obviously the Grover, who's very strong right now. But it looks like we might not be seeing the Grover here in this spot. The Ying picked up for InControl already. The Damba comes through next for Ignite, so they're going to be really trying. I mean, I think at least you get the control from the ultimate and then that gourd healing onto whichever one of your tanks is on the point. That's when you're maximizing that Damba value.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Damba also on this map has no range to his heals, right? The gourd will help himself, and then he can heal you across the map with his right clicks. Being able to do that on a map that's kind of as wide open as Bazaar helps significantly. If you can just burst someone that doesn't expect him to get a heal, their team's not expecting them to get a heal. Not only that, but you're also, depending on your build, you're giving them 25% movement speed in the middle of a fight. That will screw up a DPS that's playing against them. If they're stutter stepping, suddenly they're stutter stepping 25% faster. They're getting away from that. They're avoiding all that damage, and it could just turn a 1v1 on its head.
This is interesting for InControl. They lock in the Rom and the Talus next. I mean, obviously, between the Barrack and the Rom, you have a ton of front line and even some potential flank potential with this Rom, depending on how he'd like to play it, if he wants to try and get a little bit aggressive. And then this Talus here, too. How do you like this backline combination for InControl between the Strix and the Talus?
I think it can be interesting. The Talus will have to worry not to push them potentially too far out of sight. Is what I'm mostly worried about, because if the Talus collapses on them kind of and pushes them out of the Strix sightlines, then maybe Strix goes up a little too far. Maybe suddenly he's in the Zin area that he didn't know he had to push. When you have this combination of super aggressive flank and the kind of defensive, more passive backline, you have to push and then stop and then say, all right, well, if you're re-pushing into me, not only are you dealing with the Rom, not only are you dealing with the Talus, you're dealing with the Strix waiting right there kind of in response to whatever you're going to be doing.
I'm sorry if you saw me freak out a moment ago, but that was me reacting to Inara getting to be 10th picked for some odd reason. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've come to the point now where I think she's so strong, you should be grabbing her right away. But this has to feel pretty good for them here. But on this map like Bazaar, it's so open. I mean, is she going to be getting as much value out of the wall as she would be on some of these other maps?
She'll be getting a decent amount of value out of the wall just to block sightlines, right? Just to contest the point and buy a little bit more time there, potentially holding off on that ground. But Bazaar, you could just push over it, depending on where it is, right? If she's holding on the point with it and she thinks that that's going to be enough to live with the wall, they could just jump over. They can use the wall. They can come from the high ground and go over. It has to be used if you want to block a lane near the actual cap itself, or you can use it on those upper or lower flank areas to keep someone from escaping.
It could be a pretty strong tool for catching some out when they are backing out, but it shall be Bazaar that we move into for our 4th map here. Now, we had already 5 maps back in set 1 in Europe. I wonder if Brazil is looking to match that one here, because InControl had played well. I don't know. I feel like I might even be a little bit disappointed if they end up going out here, but either way, this should certainly be an exciting one. 3 COTS picked up on both sides already, 3 resiliences as well. In response, I've got to think to trying to deal with all this control on the other side. I mean, even to some extent, the Damba is one you have to worry about. So we're going to be running right into this.
Yeah, watching Kaiser here on the rollout. I want to see how aggressive he gets. Like I said, you want to be able to kind of keep the LOS of your sniper, but look, oh my god, Tuka literally half HP within a second of peeking combine Atlas and Cassie, but Ornstein goes one step too forward and doesn't get the second chance in time.
It's Atlas is the one that ends up falling first for that first pick. Nice work from Kaiser. Tuka goes way in the back line. This is the ROM special, when you get all these eyes looking at you way in the back while the rest of your team can control the point. Not going to work if Rom is your solo tank, but when he's the off tank like this and Barrack is the one holding it down lane, that feels like a great way to use him. And now Deja Vu has to force his way in, already 69%. Ignite do have the Inara and a couple others on the point to try and retake it. 3 there now, but that is enough for them to get back in control here, at least for now.
You know, I love watching these Atlases that have maybe not been playing Atlas for quite a while because he was kind of not really being picked that much in the meta. Just connecting every setback. It's such a just a potent CC. Completely stalls things out. Ornstein I don't know if you need that wall. That's on a 20-second cooldown, but another setback getting hit on Amadeus.
Another big shot.
Gives him potentially a flank on the team, but isn't able to react in time. And now if Ice Monkey comes in, if they want to split their team, don't have that, but Ice is actually doing a rotation. I come in a little bit late. Everyone's in the way. He gets slowed, and he's 1v5ing.
Just barely does get in there in time for the touch. We make it into the OT, but certainly that's a death warrant jumping in that spot. Kaiser also finds a way to get the touch too, but I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to keep that up. Ignite have not been able to catch it. Looks like one more member made it, and that was Tuga on the ROM that stepped in for a little bit extra time, but even still, it was borrowed time all the way through. Ignite end up with that capture on the mid-fight, and that's crazy because InControl made it in so confidently initially with the ROM in the back drawing attention, but they were not able to hold on long enough.
Yeah, that ROM, I think, thought he could make more space at the very end, but they had the Dread Serpent already. I think Zeez has been charging his ult so well, playing Damba very well on this map. It can be hard, because I mentioned, yeah, Damba can be good because it's so open, but because it's so open, his peaks are also significantly harder. Where did that true power go? I think he actually whiffed. I think he went for someone who used a dash, wasn't able to get in, and now Kaiser kind of isolated, has to dash away and gets hit with a seismic crash.
Is in a little bit of trouble, low HP, but is able to make it back a little bit towards safety. The Cassie rolls in, recognizing, and Penny the one that gets the kill credit for it, though it was Kubi's that set it up. And this is quick on Bazaar. I know I haven't gotten to cast a lot of this, but getting the payload around here this fast is pretty impressive, because now InControl in a slightly tougher spot trying to hold this off. If Ignite can push the team, they can certainly get the cap from here.
I don't actually. Are they going to catch out Ice Monkey? Ice Monkey maybe overextending after his dome went
Yeah.
away. That was the only thing that's going to keep him alive into what's sitting there, but not enough. And the Guillotine actually can't finish off the ROM, but it's all on Tuga to keep this contested.
And he's already dropped down. That's Kubi's that gets the credit for that. Zeez already has another Dread Serpent in the back pocket too,
Wow.
if they feel like they need it. But Ignite are backing up just a little bit. Looks like InControl have done enough to retake this space.
Actually, look at this true power. Oh, well, that was interesting timing for me to choose to go to him. I promise you that is not where he started that true power from. But, oh, look at that setback, actually. That would have saved him if he decided to stay committed, but it made him go back to his rune. This scout could be what Ignite used to engage, not let them have this flank. They can see them through the walls, and Big Game is just chunking Tuga, gonna force him away. And they're just taking this position on the side and trying to initiate the Dread Serpent, but it doesn't connect on anyone but Ice Monkey.
And that's great work from Kaiser to come around. He catches Kubi's and takes care of the Cassie when they were looking for the push. Even gets decent damage into the Atlas, even though it doesn't set up enough for the kill. That has forced Ignite back. Again, they keep finding these counters to the push, these dives that are slowing them down, and a lot of it is Kaiser finding this ability to get to the backline, putting out enough damage to pull Ignite back.
It's nice seeing an Atlas playing well, because I know he has the potential, especially after the changes, make him a little more consistent outside of the overcharge, but maybe it just took Kaiser to really show us what you can do with it. Bold seismic crash, it hit the illusion, it didn't go through, and nobody on the other side got stung.
Yeah, almost no value there from Penny with that ultimate. The defense is successful from InControl as well. I think the push might have gotten Penny off it just at that last moment with that charge.
The Juggernaut knocking him away. He wanted to just play around the corner. He was going to back up, DR, get re-healed, then immediately re-peak. It wasn't the knockup that knocked him off. It just kept him in the position he needed to go to stay alive. So the CC from the ROM, not normally something you see denying value like that, but getting more than enough with it right now. To also now going towards that Chrono, something you see pretty commonly on ROM when you're playing this dive kind of build. When you want to be able to get in and get out, you focus on that Harbinger and that Chronos to continue running all over them. I feel like Max with this Ying, I feel like the Strix and the Barrack, when they're taking damage, they're just kind of going 100 to 0, and he really can't heal Tuga and Kaiser, so in the healing charge, he's really falling behind Zeez, who's kind of playing around his team, I think, perfectly.
He has been already. Tuga, though, taking quite a bit of damage. Will be moving in with that charge. Good setback, pushes him back. It means that he won't be able to make it to the backline like he wants. Deja Vu gets the kill onto Ice Monkey, who had some struggles on this barrack, it's felt like, but Amadeus has the snipes in response. That puts down the Atlas, but cost him his life. Deja Vu been showing up for them, at least in this fight on that Zen, but they might need just a little bit more. 48% already for Ignite as they still control. Kaiser falls as well. Deja Vu is doing it all for him this time around. That's 3 big kills he's already got.
I keep just gasping over you, but everyone on this team is just sick. I'm sorry. I don't know what else I can do when that's happening. Deja Vu hits 3 shots around the corner, just hitting the top of Talus's head. giving him a little shave through that, and it got the kill. It finished him off when he thought he managed to escape from the pressure before. This Xin can be played as a counterflanker, and I think that's the perfect way to do it against this Rom and this Talus. Use the guillotine to kill the Rom when he doesn't have Soul Harvest, and just use the counter and all the other cooldowns to buy time against the Talus and force him to go back to that rune and not get that same aggressive dive value that he'd be getting otherwise.
Keeping this Talus in check, that's going to be critical, I feel like, for Deja Vu, sort of as you were talking about, as that counter flanker, perhaps trying to make sure that this Talus can't run rampant the way that he was able to on the last defense. But Deja Vu finally gets shut down. That's Ice Monkey that found that kill, and the cart is getting stalled out a little bit sooner than it was last time as the Cassie looks to get aggressive on the Tuga with the ROM. Sometimes you can get walked down exactly like that, so Ignite, after getting off to that early start, getting a little bit stalled here by InControl with a double kill coming out from Amadeus.
Yeah, Strix is so snowbally when you have the right build with him. Let me just pop that up and check. Whoop, yep, I'm assuming. Actually, not as snowbally as he could be, choosing to kind of go low on guerrilla tactics, so he's not going to be able to chain together the stealth to get that extra movement speed boost. And now the stealth won't mean anything with the scout coming in from Kubi's over there. Tuga almost isolated. They're just going to move together as a unit. If you all move together at once, Strix can't kill everybody, and that's the tactic they're employing here with this temporal divide. Moving forward onto the cart, everyone on control is just getting forced back.
But still, Amadeus is in a great spot with this Strix to continue putting out some shots. Z's proving your point with the ability to get those heals from, it feels like, far, far away, working out for them. But Ice Monkey having to retreat, still able to force their way around this corner is Ignite, but getting stalled just a little bit. True Power, though, maybe is enough. He's looking for the Cassie. Kaiser able to make it, shuts down Kubi's. Maybe InControl with that Cassie remove to get around this choke point after all.
Rough. I was going to say rough decision to exile Ice Monkey, but it ends up being okay. Taking that little bit of extra damage keeps him alive, even though it does let Ice Monkey continue to contest. Right now, look at Deja Vu running around. Actually, they didn't see him coming. He just gets the guillotine off and gets saved by the temporal divide from Ornsky.
And that's Ice Monkey removed without having to deal with that barrack. Things get a lot easier. Still have to deal with this very beefy ROM, though, being piloted, of course. They're on that back inside of it by Tuga. Now he's dashing through with the Juggernaut, able to find a couple knockouts, but he's a little bit isolated that far forward and ends up falling to Kubi's. But Amadeus is there to get the shot onto Deja Vu on the back end, which I have to imagine is exactly what they were looking for. It'll be an overtime if they can find this conversion.
Watching Amadeus makes you prove how hard it is to push this point when it's so hard to get into that back line without a vertical mobility. But Penny is actually contesting the card pretty effectively when those headshots aren't come in. Barrack's only doing 177 damage, but finally, the damage is enough with Tuga engaging in the back.
Yeah, Penny moves forward, realizes there were a couple kids hanging out back there. Amadeus gets the double to close this one out. Ice Monkey gets one more, and InControl get this defense. So we have been going back and forth now. Ignite winning these mid fights, but InControl finding the defense. I mean, do you expect it to keep going like this? Or Ignite going to very likely get a conversion, or is this going to come down to who can win these mid?
With how hard they're shutting down this ROM, I can't imagine it going any differently unless Tuga really kind of figures out how he wants to be playing it. When you're against a lot of CC, like I'd say he is right now, this is a tough comp to play ROM into. There's Dread Serpents, there's Domba Reload Stuns, there's the setback from one scheme specifically because it's not Deja Vu being ran because it is this temporal divide. That setback is direct. That setback is going straight into you. It's a lot easier to hit. It travels a lot faster. That's the big point to make it not really as easy to dodge. So even with Resilience 3, all they have to do is cancel his run, and with the Cauterize 3 they have, he's healing for effectively nothing from these soul fragments, making him not get away with as much, and their healer has to commit a lot harder, I think, to actually keep him in the game.
It makes it so much more difficult, you're right. I mean, Rom's so reliant on that self-sustain and any bit of healing he can get, and that's being shut down as Tuga again ends up falling early. Kaiser, though, gets the return kill by taking care of Penny, so two of the frontliners removed, but perhaps Ignite a little bit more reliant on Penny than InControl is onto Tuga. 36% for InControl here so far. They're already up to a good spot, but Amadeus playing a little bit further forward than we've normally seen from him. Can't get the sights he's looking for just yet, but now that that divide is down, perhaps he can. But the second Penny comes out, Kaiser was there waiting for him, put some decent damage in, and Ice Monkey gets that first kill onto the Atlas.
So unfortunate from Deja Vu. That guillotine had to connect to keep him in this fight, with Penny being delayed so much. Kaiser said, well, I'm in the fight, I'll just make Urinara stay out. You think you have a 5v5, but you don't. He's actually connecting all those cooldowns. Keep Kaiser distracted for now, and Penny might be able to get the touch, but Ice Monkey with the body block buys so much time against Penny.
It does get to that overtime, though, at the very tail end, but at how much of a cost has it gotten here? InControl have not really been able to get these mid-fights to go their way, but this time they were able to do it, even with Tuga largely getting denied on the ROM. It's everyone else streaking. It's Kaiser making these great plays, finding a double kill and shutting down 2. That's been the difference in Seeds being chased out by Tuga. That's nasty. Finding the double to shut them both down.
Oh, this is so tough. Seeds thought he could get away in time, but he actually holds the gate open for Tuga to commit. Because, as you guys know, you can't go through that gate if you're on the other team, but now Tuga gets a free pass through into the back line, but such a good anti-ROM comp, he really can't stay there. He has to back away for now and deal with the people trading in, but a mid-win is such a good look for InControl if they can keep this going. Please stop opening doors for Tuga. I get he's trading into you, but he forced out the guillotine and actually just lives through it.
Yeah, Deja Vu not able to get the kill there that he was looking for. It's Zoza that finds it. The Juggernaut allows for Tuga to make it a little bit further towards the backline. There's the Seismic Crash coming through, and it does find the stun Amadeus, but there wasn't the follow-up for it. Tuga now in the backline looking for a little bit of extra damage onto the Cassie, but able to survive the trade, or both of them. As it looks like Ignite are holding onto the defense for now, but just barely, but into the backline goes Kaiser, but he gets stuffed.
Immediate stun, perfect timing, and I mean, I gotta say, sick play by Zeeds, yes, to hit that stun. Why was Kaiser true powering at 600 health? There is literally, I don't think there's any justification for ulting at that point when your team is on the attack. And you have all the time in the world to wait. Tuga's gonna respawn. You have like a minute and a half. Just hold off on the E key for 1 second, Kaiser. And now, I think that's hurting them here because Kaiser is trying to make something happen, but the rest they're getting so aggressive and using this temporal divide to just keep them split.
Well, they've got some opportunities to start moving forward, but remember, we're in the mid-fight right now. Remember how far InControl had the cart actually pushed up? Well, they're far from that right now. A couple kills coming through for Ignite to deny the push even further. Tuga trying to regroup back towards the squad, but now he's been a bit isolated on that front line and is stuck inside the sight lines of Kubies for yet another shot. And I wonder how much of this comes back to that Palace diving a bit too far forward, because now InControl are just getting another mid-fight instead of having to defend outside their own spawn.
I think they actually had a chance, potentially, to pull them away if Tuga had ran past them with that sprint, but he chose to kind of cleave through them instead to make room for his team. All he had to do was run behind them, get on the objective, and everyone has to leave. They can't ignore it, but they're getting kind of gifted with that time now. But look, I mean, look at how forward they are. The cart is so far away. Tuga looks like he might make an attempt. And all the CC actually misses, but not enough duration on the dash in the build. Subjugation only at 1. So he can't make it. Xzeeds actually catches up to him and farms a little bit of damage stat on top of him.
And Ignite come in with all 5 ultimates available. We're still a little bit further away from the ROM ultimate being available at 79%. King Kaiser basically has his. It'll be up without too much fighting having to go on for his. So this will be a very close mid-fight. It comes down to the 3-3.
And ultimate-wise, Ignite have everything. We know that how close InControl is. They're going to get theirs relatively quickly if they manage to get aggressive, because it is both the flankers that have it. But mostly counter-ultimates up for InControl. We see the Cataclysm from the ROM mostly come out to just stop pressure. We see True Power. The True Power is really the only engagement that they have, so if that's not utilized correctly, I think they might be struggling here. Look at these heal charts, by the way. Zeeds has 100,000 more healing than a Ying. That's insane, and I think it shows why this Damba pick was really smart for them. I think they understand the map well and got picks that play to that.
You're right. I mean, I was a bit surprised when we saw the Damba locked in that early, but they're clearly proving its value here and now. We could keep our eyes sort of there on how Tuga's matchup is going, because remember, he's been the one that's been getting locked down, but Kaiser tries to make his way to the backline. He's looking for the battle with Koopies, but can't win it by the thinnest of margins, maybe 200 HP left for the Cassie, but either way comes out on top. Ice Monkey got a trade elsewhere in favor of InControl as well, so they're still hanging on and got the percent building up.
And the damage was mostly going into the Inara, while Ice Monkey managed to avoid the majority of it, so he got this refight in time, but Penny actually, I thought he found a lane into Max, but perfect wall to keep this point contested. This is a good chance for Ignite to engage, but I don't think they took it in time. The wall came up for now, but Penny needs to get healed, putting so much pressure on him.
And he is getting that healing finally coming through from the Damba to keep him standing back up. But Ignite are the ones that actually control the center space. Penny had to step back out, now back in to continue contesting. But Amadeus is back to hitting the snipes. Deja Vu and Orneskin are both down. That means that Amadeus can move in and start putting some damage into Penny as well. Some troubles now for the Cassie as the pistol comes out from Amadeus to put down one more. And InControl might be stepping up to get this win.
It's possible. I want to see how Deja Vu takes this. I think he's the one who has to touch because Atlas doesn't really have the way, but all his cooldowns are still up. They're not fighting him. Rom's not contesting this at all. He's just giving him a chance to come in behind this shield as well. Great patience, I think, to wait for that. With the scout there, nothing hidden now from them, and Penny rides right back into the center of their backline.
And is able to get that touch back in, so now the overtime riding, and as soon as it goes down, that's the Ying, and really all of their healing having been removed, and the Spite's able to connect into Ice Monkey. The guillotine means that's the end for him, and as you said, it's the 3v3. Kaiser has to come up big for InControl if they want to hold on to this one, but he's now the one low. Even Penny able to keep him at bay. They do lose the Atlas, but they're still holding on, and Kaiser finally drops.
Wait, he's playing behind the wall. Will he be able to stay alive? They're just looking at him. Wait, they're not looking forward. He might be able to get re-healed. They have a Dread Serpent too. Everyone in the backline is feared.
And the Dread Serpent does come out. That pushes a couple members back out, and Deja Vu can now hold on to this midpoint for Ignite. They're trying to step up and find Amadeus near the top, but can't get the damage onto him there either. So instead, he turns back towards the barrack, recognizing he's low, but Kaiser's there to provide the peel. This is the longest 99% fight I think I've ever seen. But Tuga goes down as well. It's a double now for Kubi, who's able to get back beyond the barrack for behind the shield and get another kill. Really 3 for him there in that fight. And now the overtime's ticking down for Ignite. They get the victory.
I don't even know what to say about the end of that game. That was...
Wait, the set's over. Wait,
that was it. Yeah, that was it. That was Ignite. Inara was a last pick, by the way.
Right, 10.
Behind that wall, literally won the game for them by walling him off. They didn't have anyone who could go vertically, so it's just Strix just flares at a wall, which does nothing, by the way. And they're just staring at this like, well, I revealed her. We'll know where she is when she comes out. But Zeeds came back because they were all staring at this wall, even though she wasn't doing any damage to them. Zeeds comes back, gets the heal on Penny, gets the Dread Serpent on both DPS, and she soaked so much aggression by just standing on the objective that InControl just let them walk in. They were out of control as much as they possibly could have been in that moment.
Yeah, and it ends up going the way of Ignite. I mean, you've already talked about the Inara value clearly coming up there with that wall, but I mean, you got to give it to that entire Ignite squad because it felt like things were really starting to move out of control for them. The Cassie pick was getting some insane value towards the end of that game there as well, and obviously with all that healing from the Dampa, I don't know how you don't give some credit over to that as well. An excellently played Bazaar from them, clearly knowing the map well.
And some people talk about how, like, oh, we don't want to play Bazaar. People compare it to Fish Market. I think it's anything but. I think having that wide point kind of makes it Fish Market, but actually good for tanks, which some people don't say. So some teams, like, try to avoid it, but clearly they practiced it. I thought their comp for it was fantastic. Even if I think the Atlas, the wall, maybe didn't get as much value as it could have. I think they maybe missed some opportunities for control with Deja Vu, not the player, the talent. I'm kind of sad that Atlas is meta now because I knew this was going to be a problem if this was coming up. But maybe some more control opportunities with Deja Vu. But the fast setback ends up working out to counter the ROM. The fast setback and the big wall end up helping them in some fights, specifically saving Penny too during that really desperate situation there near the very end. I didn't hate InControl's draft either. I just think that they ended up picking ROM into a very hard to overcome draft.
I really think that might have been the only problem because Amadeus was playing lights out on the Strix, wasn't he? I mean, hitting all kinds of shots for them, and still it doesn't amount to enough. I mean, even the Talus, I think, played pretty well for them at times, maybe losing some of those duels up against the Cassie towards the tail end, but for the most part, that was a pretty well-handled game for InControl. It just did not quite get there, as Ignite were the ones that came out on top. But that is going to do it for Brazil. It's hard to believe, but we're only 2/3 of the way through the day. We have a whole another set coming up in North America here in just a moment. So go ahead and refill the water, get your stacks, whatever you got to do, then get right back here for more PPC.